McPhee Center, affectionately known as the Glass House, is indeed a very special building. It is perhaps one of the most recognized structures at the university, and it's a place where so many memories were created and where we celebrated entertainment events, ceremonies, and activities that are milestone in the lives of many, from unforgettable concerts with worldwide impact to heart-stopping athletic events and championships, and of course the joy of graduation and convocation, not only for our university, but for our area high schools, all while serving as a vital academic facility, including offices, classrooms, and dance studios.
This is the McPhee Center. It's the cultural catalyst of the city of Murfreesboro, cornerstone of Middle Tennessee State University, the epicenter of basketball in the state of Tennessee, where every Blue Raiders academic journey begins and ends. It's the place where world-class track and field athletes competed to reach the national stage. And for 3 decades, it was the go-to music venue in the Nashville area. It's where memories are made, and it's been that way for 50 years. Alumni Memorial Gymnasium was built in 1949. It's at 2,500 patrons, and for a little over a decade, it did its job. The basketball gym at what was then called Middle Tennessee State College was the home of district, regional, and state high school tournaments. It even hosted a few small concerts in its day. But of course, it was best known as the home of Blue Raider basketball. Coach Ken Trickey was a forward thinker, a visionary. He recruited fans to pack the stands of that Cracker Jack box of a gym, as well as the school's first African-American basketball players, Willie Brown and Art Polk. But Trickey's dreams for the program were bigger.
In the early 1960s, Ken Trickey, he became a basketball coach and was very successful and came here, and we were very successful. And he was drawing good crowds, which indicated, and he always said, we need a separate arena for basketball. I'd like to have an arena that seats 6,000 people.
Ken Trickey really gets the credit for being the innovator that said we need to do more than what we're doing right here, playing in this small gymnasium. I see a bright future for this basketball program, and that he actually put the ideas on the table of we need more seats, we can get larger crowds, this is going to be a dynamic program, and is the father of that whole initiative.
In July of 1965, the school's name was officially changed to Middle Tennessee State University, and University President Dr. Quill Cope gathered $2 million from leftover funds to put towards improved athletic facilities.
In 1966, Dr. Quill Cope, who was the president of MTSU, named a committee. The committee made up of Coach Bubba Murphy, who was the director of athletics, Dr. Fran Reel, who was director or chairman of the HB&A department, Dr. Eddie Voorhees, who had been kind of handling facilities until I came on board, and I was on the committee. 4 of us were on that committee. Planning committee of the 4 people that I mentioned, based on their knowledge of the situation, we were talking about a 3-phase deal. 1, we would build the separate basketball facility. They would seat 6,000 people, and that would be north of the stadium, football stadium, where the old picnic area is, where now the Hall of Fame building is, really. Then we would build a separate, what we would call field sports building, track and all that kind of stuff, and then we would renovate Alumni Memorial. Well, Dr. Cope retired, and then in 1968, Dr. Mel Scarlett came on, and we reviewed our concept with him about what we were thinking. He said, well, that all looks good. But he said, you know, why don't we build all this in one facility? Well, we got to mulling it around and worked with an architect. It had been named Taylor Crabtree Architects out of Nashville. We reviewed that thing, and lo and behold, the idea looked possible, and they took that concept to the State Building Commission. That project was approved under the name of an HB&A Athletic Convocation Center, of all things. And you can see that encompassed a lot of stuff. Now we're going back to the building committee and said, oh, we've changed our mind. We want this in one facility if we can get it. So that got approved, and then that set the stage for some other exploring. Facility-wise, we went to Notre Dame, and we liked what we saw there. That's the first time I had seen an athletic facility, a gymnasium in the oval shape with the 4 vomitories in each, a dormitory in each end, and we all liked that concept. That then you could do whatever you needed to do behind that. They knew of a facility, the Air Force Academy, out in Colorado Springs. We went out there. We flew out there, took the president and the architect and all. We all looked at it, you know, and they liked that. That's the floating roof concept. The weight of the whole roof structure is supported by the 4 structural columns. Everything floats.
The first thing that pops into my mind when I think about the construction of Murphy Center was that it was going to cave in eventually because of the flat roof and nothing supporting that I could see. Of course, not having much experience or education with architecture, I didn't know what I was doing. So,
now, one other unique feature about that, on top of those columns, the structure is not tied into the columns. There's a Teflon pad on top of each 6x6 column that allows the roof to move. It'll move. You know, you don't know, you don't think about it. It does move. It has to move. It has to expand and contract with weather situation.
We're looking at a gym floor, and I wanted tartan at that time because it was the buzzword in college basketball. Tech was getting one, UT was getting one. But smarter people prevailed. Bill Smotherman and Charlie Pigg, and we got a power lock floor, a great wooden floor. And thank goodness the smart people prevailed.
Initially, the fixed seating, we had 6 colors. Can you imagine that, of the fixed seats? Orange, green, blue, all the way around, 6 different colors. And then the exit lights were the same color. So if you had a ticket that said you were red 6, N6, well, okay, that's where I got to go. They go to the red sign, and that'd be their section. Well, after a few years, you know, you could look at other institutions. They had all their seats, their institution color, you know, like Duke, and that would be all blue. Or Kentucky, that would be all blue. That sort of thing. And so that was changed in years later, but it was designed mainly, you know, that the student knew they could sit in the green section, let's say, and people know what. There was some merit to it, but it functionally it turned out, well, that's not really the best thing to do now. So you know, things change, functions change.
We just had a lot of support. Everybody was wanting to make this a good building, and it sure was when it opened.
And I might add here that the concept that we had with what they call the HB&A Athletic Convocation Center, Austin Peay went to school on us, East Tennessee State went to school on us, UT Chattanooga went to school on us. We still are the most functional facility that was built, and we pioneered the concept.
That building's name, HB&A Athletic Convocation Center, didn't stick around long. Who would we name it after? That choice was an easy one.
Coach Murphy had already established himself as a player, a coach, and an administrator, which is a rare feat at any university in that. And he had a demeanor about him that he was so widely beloved. I mean, beloved. So it really was a no-brainer. There wasn't a second or third choice that was even close to Bubba Murphy, and he earned every bit of having his name on that facility.
It was palpable. The city, if you remember, was only about 25,000 maybe, and not 10,000 students. So it was a big deal, and the excitement was rampant really as we got closer to the December deadline of the game with Vanderbilt.
Finally, on December 11th, 1972, it was game day in the new gym. Risers were placed on the floor because the rollaway bleachers had yet to be completed, and goals were installed just hours before tip-off. The home team dressed in their AMG locker room and walked through the underground tunnel to their new arena. By the time the crowd began to file in, it became evident that a new era had begun in the history book known as Murphy Center.
We practiced all preseason in the old gym while they're building Murphy Center. The day before the game, they didn't have the goals up. But we came in here and ran through drills for depth perception. I wanted them to get used to the depth perception, but there were no goals to practice on. So we didn't have any practice before the Vanderbilt game.
But I remember all the crowd. We were just so excited to see it.
In the days before ESPN, Twitter, and smartphones, if you wanted to watch the Blue Raiders play, you had to get to Murphy Center.
In the OVC, you know, it was not unusual. I've seen this place full, 11,700 people here, playing Austin Peay, Tennessee Tech, Western Kentucky, Murray, those teams that were local where they'd bring in fans. I mean, many, by the hundreds.
You know, the arena during that era was pandemonium. It was electric. We would come into the arena early to get this seat, and there was already a buzz. It didn't matter whether we were playing Eastern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Murray State, Tennessee Tech, Austin Peay. It didn't matter. We knew all of those communities because they were regional schools. We could identify with them. Because of that, we knew who their best player was, so that created opportunities to taunt that particular person because we knew his name. And so it was a very electric atmosphere. You know, that was probably one of the most eye-catching parts of my early years here at MTSU. The basketball program was continuing to rise and play well. In the spring of '74, they finished with a 14-1 home record. And then I'm coming in here in the summer, and there was already a buzz on campus that we have a great basketball team. And we go into that freshman year of fall of '74 into that basketball season, which the team ended up being undefeated at home, 15-0. They go 23-5 overall. That this became the place to be every single game.
But if you couldn't make it to the game, there was a dependable voice over the airwaves who painted the picture for you.
Back out to Mickey Fisher. Over to Howard, top of the key. In the lane, intercepted by Middle Tennessee. Taylor gives it to Jimmy Martin. Martin moves, top of the key. Taylor on the right, 12-foot jump. The place explodes. 47-28. Unbelievably, Middle Tennessee has blown Austin Peay nearly off the floor here. 19-point lead. The crowd standing, roaring. Fisher on the left. They can't get a shot either. Lob it outside. Stolen by Taylor. Taylor up the floor to Martin. To Taylor. Layup. Good.
Monty Hale moved to Murfreesboro in 1960 and became the voice of Blue Raider football and basketball. In 1968, when Jimmy Earle became the head coach of the Blue Raiders, the two developed an inseparable friendship. Today, the basketball arena within Murphy Center is named for them both.
Well, it means a lot. It's an honor, and being next to Monty is an honor. So I'm very humble. Yeah.
Monty Hale handed the play-by-play duties to Dick Palmer after the 1981 basketball season. Palmer's toughest on-air assignment as the voice of the Blue Raiders came in 1988 when MTSU played the USSR right here in the Glass House.
They had only lost one game, I think, on their U.S. tour. We beat them by about 6 points. But the thing I remember most about that was trying to get all the names right. That was kind of a struggle.
Obviously had seen what they had done on the world stage, you know, just winning the gold medal there against America. And so, you know, Coach Stewart was never one to back down from a challenge. So he loved, he was on the phone, tried to get that worked out and did. And whenever he shared that with us, that we were getting a good chance to play them, it was a room full. This room over there was really excited. You know, and that was kind of the makeup of our whole team, was that we wanted to go out and compete and you know, take great challenges, and knowing obviously playing them here would be special. Them coming off of that, you know, big deal, and then the tour that they made, like you said, we were, I think, the only one to beat them with, you know, fully loaded, and so yeah, it was a neat time leading up to it, you know, and then obviously getting to go out there and compete against those guys. Big dudes that were grown men, you know, and us a bunch of, well, I was a freshman, I was a little kid. We had some grown men on our side too. Kerry Hammonds was a pretty good sized kid, but trying to guard Sabonis, he looked like a little man out there with him. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
2022 isn't just Murphy Center's 50th anniversary. Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 paved the way for equitable scholarships and access for women's sports. And in 1975, the Lady Raiders took the Murphy Center court for the first time as an NCAA-sponsored team.
Pre-Title IX, they did not have all the services that we offer the men's programs, so I was assigned to that, and so in a very first-hand way, it was remarkable to see the university and universities all across the country pivot quickly and give them a full range of services and all that.
Obviously coming before us in like older generations that, you know, through Title IX, it was like, you know, for them, it was a joyous moment because they laid the foundation and, you know, had to kind of go through the trenches so that we could have what's normal and have a scholarship to a university for women's basketball. So that was always really cool to get a piece of history whenever people were in town.
The Murphy Center was built to be a first-class arena. But Dr. Scarlett's suggestion to make this building a multifunctional one opened the door for a first-class track to be installed above the bowl. 6 lanes wide, it takes a little over 6 trips around the track to reach a mile. And that track has seen a lot of miles over the last 5 decades.
Well, I remember about it when we was training outside, running in the cold. So, you know, and they said we're going to have an indoor facility that we could run, you know, of course that beats anything as far as, you know, trying to run outside and put up with the cold weather and just having a place to come inside. There's also a fast track. So a lot of people wanted to come here to qualify for like indoor meets.
That fast track gave the legendary coach Dean Hayes an idea. He pioneered the Last Chance Meet right here in Murphy Center. This meet gave the top runners in the nation one last chance to reach a time fast enough to qualify for the NCAA Indoor Championships. The Last Chance Meets of the 1980s brought 2 heroes of the gridiron to Murfreesboro to compete on that indoor track.
Dean Hayes had recruited world-class athletes, and then he invented something called the Last Chance Meets, which there are many across the country now, which meant that athletes could come and qualify for the NCAA meets. If they hadn't qualified previously, they had one last chance to come to this event at our place and run on the track upstairs.
One of my first years here, Coach Dean Hayes, our legend, used to host a Last Chance Meet, and I got to see Herschel Walker and several others run track in this facility, and you talk about incredible, holy cow. I mean, you know, I think he and Bo Jackson probably were both here. It was incredible to see the caliber of athletes that were in Murphy Center running against our track team.
I can attest, I was one of the people who saw Herschel Walker run in this building. I actually got over here, climbed up on top of the concession stand up there, and watch Herschel run the 55-meter dash. And I'm telling you, that dude took up the whole lane. He was a big cat and very fast on top of that.
Well, it's a great place for rainy days like today, or when it gets real cold outside. It's great to have a place where you can still get your workouts in, which is a huge advantage over other schools. I mean, before Vanderbilt built their indoor facility, this is the only one in Middle Tennessee. You know, Tennessee doesn't have one. So, great place, and a lot of people really don't know about it.
Despite the historic athletes who graced those lanes, no one moved faster on that track than MTSU students registering for classes from 1972 to 1994.
Registering for classes in the from the 1970s up through the 80s, again, before the age of doing everything online, registration went for 3 days. You know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you had a time that you had to show up to pull your cards for your classes. Well, the thing was, there was a huge gathering of people out between Murphy Center and AMG because you started up on the track back up behind me, and it was a big social event. And I mean, you moved from up on the track down to the floor for part of it. Then you were back up on the track again, getting your cards, and then you went down to the alumni gym to pay your fees, and you finally got registered.
It was chaotic. You know, you had to walk around with these little, papers in your hands, and they had boards down on the floor. And sometimes you get to a station and that class had closed. And we say, well, what do we do when it's closed? So we had to go get another line and try to get a substitute class. You know, I really don't even know how they were able to orchestrate all that, because I guess by the time you had red things that said they closed, green, you still had some openings. And you go from place to place trying to get in. You had other people asking you, are you taking this class? I'm taking whatever class I can get in.
You would go up to the boards just hoping that classes were available that you wanted, and many times they weren't. And so that you didn't get this wonderful schedule that allowed you to sleep late and go to class, and it was a bit of a scramble.
Coach Jimmy Earle's competitive teams of the 1970s made Murphy Center known as a great basketball arena. And Coach Dean Hayes brought in some of the best athletes in the world to compete on the track upstairs. But one phone call to former Director of Student Programming Harold Smith transformed Murphy Center into the premier concert venue of the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Then the next battle was to try to get the attention of a promoter or promoters that would take a chance. And of all the people in the world to get their attention happened with Colonel Tom Parker, with Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley played 5 shows here. The first year he played 2, the following year he played 3, but the first show he did put Murphy Center on the map as far as a concert venue. And from there, my gosh, we dealt with probably anywhere from 18 to 20 different national promoters for shows in Murphy Center. I mean, and during the 30 years that we were here, we did 151 concerts or activities in Murphy Center.
We had to practice elsewhere, but the entertainers all used our dressing room. And I remember Elvis Presley used our dressing room. And I told Harold, I said, yes, he can use our dressing room if he gives me 2 scarves. One for my wife and one for my daughter.
Did he give you the scarf?
Yes.
I think I was a freshman in high school, and a friend's mom brought us to see Elvis right here. And I was sitting by one of the vomitories, and he walked up the vom that I was sitting beside. So there I was with about 11,000 other people screaming his name. And so that's that vom right over there. You know, we've had some great artists over the years. I'm so excited about the new mural upstairs because It just shows all the people who used to come and do their concerts here. A lot of people today don't realize that we were a concert central before Bridgestone Arena. And so it's just phenomenal, the people that were here, and having the excitement of them being in our facility was always nice. I remember one day we were practicing in the auxiliary gym, and we just snuck up at the end of practice to look at the stage. I believe it was one of the times that Garth Brooks sold out 4 straight nights. And we came up and we walked up the ramp, and there are only a couple of people up here, but there was a guy climbing up and adjusting the lights. And I looked at my manager and I went, "That's Garth Brooks." And she went, "Right, coach, right." And literally he climbed down, he jumped on the stage, he jumped off beside us, and I went, "That's Garth Brooks." And I think he had on his Oklahoma State sweatshirt, and we offered to give him a better sweatshirt. And so he left here with a Lady Raider basketball sweatshirt, and eventually actually took pictures in our locker room with the team. So, I mean, how incredible was that? He's such a showman, but yet he's also such a gentleman. Knowing that our girls wanted an opportunity to meet him, he certainly accommodated us immediately.
I got to tell you, it's always the people that make it special, but it's also your crew. It's also the faculty that's around there. And I remember coming in, I remember immediately being treated like family. So how do you pay the ultimate respect to a building that you know is going to be great? You film it for a major network special. We filmed a lot of that here. And I got to tell you, when they built what was then called the GEC, the Gaylord Entertainment Center, when we talked about going and playing there, I said, "Gentlemen, we can make a deal. If we don't, there's a sweet little spot just south of town. I'm telling you, you'll want to play." So I love this place. Great memories, and can't thank them enough for not just the start, but they've stayed there.
Concerts have been a big part of my life in this building. For that span of time from the early 80s up through the 90s, you think about all the people that I've seen in this building. First one I ever bought a ticket to here was Dan Fogelberg. Right after that, it was Journey, then Bruce Springsteen, then Elton John, then Billy Joel. Most fun show, I think, was a night we had Lionel Richie and the Pointer Sisters together, which that was a huge night. One that brought back a lot of memories here recently, Olivia Newton-John. As of September of this year, it was exactly 40 years from the night that she was here during her physical tour. And I can tell you this, when Harold Smith ran student programming, he always made sure that whoever the act was, at some point they had some sort of Blue Raider gear on when they were on stage. Well, the night Olivia Newton-John was here, she'd gone through a lot of her hits. She goes off stage for a minute, obviously a costume change. Well, the band cranks up the intro to Let's Get Physical. Well, all of a sudden, Olivia Newton-John bounces out with her Dolphin running shorts and her MTSU sweatshirt, and the roof about came off of this place that night. It was so much fun. And, having had U2 in this building, Boston has played here. Everybody that was anybody in rock and roll during the 70s and 80s played this building.
And just this fall, to kick off Murphy Center's 50th anniversary, one of those musical legends of this building's past returned home one last time.
I think it was so special that Winona brought her concert back here to Murphy Center. We knew we were in this 50th anniversary year, and we desperately wanted a concert. We did not have one booked at that moment, so we had this gap. All of a sudden she says, "I'm coming," and it was a godsend. And in meeting her, she was such a lady, just a pure professional, and it was an utter joy. I thought that her performance was just outstanding. It showed that she had her heart in being here at Murphy Center.
From the beginning, when the idea of one multifunctional building began in 1968, this building was the city's building. It's our basketball arena. It's our indoor track. It's our favorite concert venue. And for MTSU students since 1972, it marks the beginning and the end of the academic journey.
The MTSU had a graduation in December of '72, but then the high schools came along in the spring and had both of their graduates. So they've been here ever since.
And on the 50th anniversary of Murphy Center, my son will be graduating from MTSU, so he'll get to go across that stage and shake Dr. McPhee's hand, and that's exciting for me. But I think it's been a great venue for all of our families to watch their students graduate.
To walk across that stage, and in my case, to receive my diploma from Dr. Ingram, it was something that was tangible, that I had reached that finish line of making that move. I was the first person in my family to come to college. My mother had gone to nursing school, but to come to college, I was the first one, and I took that very seriously. And there are thousands of stories of people that have come to Middle that were the first person in their family to get a college degree, and I think they all have very similar stories.
I can't even begin to tell you. Like, it was weird, like sitting in the auction, like standing in line, because it was like usually I'm in here like dying from running sprints or a shooting drill or something, and I'm in here just like chilling in my cap and gown. But it was really special. It was a special moment, not just for me, but for my family as well, and to be able to share that, with my family and just see it all come full circle with getting my degree at the end. It was pretty special.
Whether it was graduation, a basketball game, or a concert, it doesn't matter where you sat or what you were here for. This building created memories that will last a lifetime.
There's not a bad seat in Murphy Center, and not all gyms can say that.
There's not a bad seat in this building.
Truly not a bad seat in this place.
There's not a bad seat in the house.
When the NCAA chose Murfreesboro as a host site for the 1979 men's basketball tournament, that cemented the Murphy Center's legacy as an iconic basketball venue.
Well, one of the highlights to me was the NCAA basketball tournament that we hosted the first and second rounds in 1979. And that was when they sent Michigan State here, and Magic Johnson was on that team.
I worked at the NCAA Mid-East Regionals, and to see this freshman who was known as Irvin Johnson bring the ball up the court at 6'9" on plays, you're going, what is this? We don't do that in the OVC. We have 5'9", not 6'9" point guards.
But yeah, he was an unforgettable player to watch. And the crowds here were tremendous. Yeah, that's the last time I guess we've hosted an NCAA game.
Tournament basketball truly is the best basketball. The NCAA tournament of 1979 put Murphy Center on the national stage, and many OVC tournaments gave the building regional fame. But to high school basketball players across the state of Tennessee, playing in the Glass House means everything.
Coming into Murphy Center was, every team in the state of Tennessee, single A at that time when I was in high school, you only had 3 classifications, single A, double A, and triple A. They all those teams in every classification knew about Murphy Center. That's where you wanted to be. That gave you a chance to win a state championship. You didn't know who you were going to be playing. You didn't know what teams were going to be there, but you know where it was going to be played at, and that was Murphy Center.
In the 1970s, this building was brand new. The university was in a huge growth period. I think of a guy like Cliff Gillespie, who was Dean of Admissions at the time. He really wanted the state tournaments here because he's recruiting high school kids to come to school here. And it was such a big deal for those high schools and those communities to come to this building.
As a high schooler, this is, you're playing in a Division I college arena, and you're just like, wow, this place is huge. So just being able to be in that building and, have my family and friends there, it was awesome.
You cannot mention high school basketball without mentioning the name Rick Insell in Shelbyville High School. And I recruited a lot of his players, and they laugh at me because I say I recruited a lot of his players who went other places. And finally we gave up and recruited him.
The most recent era of Blue Raider basketball will not soon be forgotten. Coach Rick Insell made the move to the college ranks with immediate success, making the Lady Raiders a national contender.
So here's this legendary high school coach, and how will he convert to to the college game, and just working with him all summer, I wasn't nervous at all about that transition. I knew he was a great one.
We played Chattanooga, at Chattanooga, and I got a call that night. We lost. I got a call that night from Dr. McPhee and Chris Massaro and said, have we made a mistake? And they were just really, they were not serious. They were just messing with me. But, you know, as competitive as I am, I kind of took that at heart. So our next game was Houston here. That was our first win right here, the second game we played Houston.
The Maryland women's basketball game where this place was packed. They're the defending national champs. It's our opener, and it's like a 4-point game with like a minute left, and so we lose a close one.
We played Louisville at home. Any game we played Western at home. Those games were always like intense. They were always live. Like we had the best fan base those games. Obviously the rivalry with Western was always something that was always a fun game to play in.
Well, Alysha Clark is the best. She is the best, and she came out of a good high school program over at Mount Juliet. And the thing about Alysha was she just would work you to death. She would not bow down to any opponent. We played a game in Troy one night, and they decided to guard her one-on-one. Most team double teamed or triple teamed her. She got 50.
On the opposite hallway of Murphy Center, the men's basketball program stayed strong.
And to have witnessed this latest era of fantastic basketball during Coach Davis's time and now with Coach McDevitt, to be part of that has been very gratifying.
It all happened it just seemed like it was all happening so fast. You know, as a kid, you just dream of playing in college in general, and then you get to go and you're playing in the Murphy Center. You know, there's thousands of seats, thousands of fans coming to watch you play, and to be a part of, be able to play in the Murphy Center, which has already had tons of great teams and tons of great players coming in and out of it. It was special.
One of Kermit's last home games was against Western Kentucky, and this place was full. And I remember that a lot of people thought Western Kentucky would beat us, and Kermit was like, we can't wait to play these guys. And before the game, everybody had their cell phones out and the flashlights out. And there's a picture of Kermit kind of looking at the audience, and it's like, wow, this is what it's supposed to be about. And it's kind of like the dream and the vision fulfilled. And we went and we kicked their tail. And so that was a great night. So last year's Western Kentucky game, much the same feeling with Coach McDevitt.
You know, looking back over the history of all the basketball teams that this program has had, but also the great coaches that have roamed the sideline here in the Murphy Center here for Middle Tennessee, that I don't take that for granted, that I'm kind of now part of that brotherhood, if you will, from Jimmy Earle, Bruce Stewart, obviously Kermit Davis here most recently, Randy Will. There's just been a lot of really good coaches that have had great teams, and we want to continue that tradition. Having a championship program here year in and year out is really important, and one that we take very seriously.
Under Coach Kermit Davis, MTSU was a bracket buster, and several Blue Raiders became household names and all-time favorites.
I'll tell you one that just grabs my heartstrings is Reggie Upshaw's senior night, when he walked out and kissed the floor at midcourt. And I'm kind of welling up here a little bit thinking about that, but just that moment when he did that, because in my mind, he may be the best overall player who has ever been here with all of his skill set. And for him to do that showed that his time here really meant a great deal to him.
I just remember, knowing that, it was the last time I'd be in the Murphy Center, knowing that it'd be the last time I play in front of those fans, play in that gym, on that court, and just knowing that I wanted to go out with a bang. My family was there. All of the seniors had family there. All of, thousands of fans were there. My brother came in and surprised me. But I just remember, I just told myself, this is it. This is the last time I'll be able to play here. So, go out with a bang.
Now, the Blue Raiders and Lady Raiders are carrying on the tradition of those before them. Just last season, in year 49 of the Murphy Center, MTSU was the only school in the country to finish the regular season with a perfect home record for men's basketball and women's basketball.
And then we came back and got selected to play in the NIT, and I think we played with a chip on our shoulder all the way through that. We won several close games. We beat several good teams, Wake Forest, Vanderbilt. You just come right on down the line, and then Toledo, what a game that ended up being, and then we came back from 25 down to take the lead and had pretty much everything in control.
I think any time that you're able to win a championship on your home floor, that's going to rank high. And so to be able to beat Western Kentucky here last year in the regular season, to clinch the CUSA East Championship.
But we're not done yet. It's got a fresh coat of paint on the floor. State-of-the-art windows recently replaced the ones installed 5 decades ago. The Build Blue project is underway, and Phase 2 is all about Murphy Center.
This facility is magical. I mean, the new glass that they put in this past year, the floor design, I think, and what they're planning on doing with Build Blue, everybody thinks it's a great facility now, but let's give it about 3 or 4 years down the road and they're really going to see what's about to take shape right here.
I think everybody that has seen the drawings, the architectural renderings of what this place is going to look like, what Floyd Stadium is going to look like, it's really exciting to be a part of. This place has had some incredible concerts, events, basketball games, you name it. There's been some big time moments in here, and I think with the Build Blue project and some of the renovations that are going to happen, it's only going to allow this place to hold those kind of memories for decades to come.
First plan that I think people are most excited about is putting a new grand entrance on the corner here and not having to go up those long stairs that seem to be never ending, right? Having a grand entrance right on top of where those stairs currently sit with, escalators and elevators and easy access to the upper concourse is going to be a game changer. Kind of behind the scenes stuff, a new locker room, practice gym, training room for the athletes. That's all going to be part of that building. And the mid-court seats are the furthest from the actual court. And so if we can reconfigure that to bring those seats closer and make it less oval and more rectangular, bringing the seats in the mid-court area closer to the court will really help things and make it feel like the fans are right on top of the action, like a Cameron Indoor Stadium at Duke. And the second thing would be on the upper concourse where we have those expandable bleachers, taking those out and putting in suites. We don't have any premium seating currently in the Murphy Center, and having suites there both for basketball events and for concerts would be incredibly attractive.
Thanks to the outstanding work of our facilities team in maintaining Murphy Center and the considerable strategic investments we have made, it will continue to be the site of celebrations and special events well into the future.
And I want people to enjoy this for generations to come because this is the most beloved building in our county, and I would say in our mid-state as well. So this is a cathedral. And I like the fact that we refer to it as the historic Murphy Center. You can feel the history here.
The Murphy Center's first 50 years were historic. Legendary, unforgettable. But here's to the next 50. The future is bright inside the glass house.